What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of the Sheehan Show on Sherdog.com. My name is Sean Sheehan, and today we are going to be looking at Bellator 283 Lima versus Jackson, which goes down in the Emerald Queen Casino and Hotel in Tacoma, Washington, USA. And it's been a while since we've had a Bellator card. I remember the last preview I did for Bellator, I talked about the gap between cards and said I would report back with how I feel when we're coming up to the next card. And you know what? How I feel is pretty good. You know, I'm anticipating this card. I went through it. I spent the last couple of hours here watching a lot of fights for this card. And it's a pretty good card. You know, I think the Irish card coming up is an absolute blow-away card. So for any promotion to put on a card like that, it's going to be hard to keep putting on consistently good cards. But I think the top fight in this, the second fight in this, are very, very good matchups. There's been a lot of injuries, a lot of pullouts in this as well. So that's, you know, Bellator can't do anything about that. But they've tried to put on a very good card. And as well, even like if this card, I think, happened a week after another Bellator card and a week before another Bellator card, I probably wouldn't come on here and be saying, oh, it's a good card. And you know it is, and that I might be wrong then. But the fact there's a bit of a break, and we are ready to see Bellator again, and they've made us maybe want it a little bit again. Or even if this is the first time you're even thinking about Bellator in a while, you're probably saying, oh well, do you know what? Let's watch a bit of Bellator. You know, we've had nothing but the UFC, we've had a bit of PFL. Bellator haven't been around for a month. We've kind of stopped thinking about it, and now it's back again. And I think that's good, because MMA promotions these days are Saturday, you know, the UFC, and then you throw in the Dana White Contender Series, you throw in Tough, maybe you throw in a press conference, and it's just a lot. You know, it just really is a lot. And, you know, there's some people out there, and you know, fans of the sport, obviously myself and other people covering it, it's different, but fans of the sport, they want to consume everything, and they want, you know, so much content, and they want it never ending, and that's absolutely fine. You know, I'm here to provide you with some of that as well. But I think there's a lot of fans as well that, like, you know, I watch my fights on the weekend, and I don't want fights clashing, and I want to enjoy Friday and go out Saturday or something like that. So to have that every week, to have it almost be a burden on an MMA fan, because we all know MMA fans love to keep up with everything. And if Bellator finds itself in a place where it's hard to keep up with, it's a very bad place, because people are going to choose the UFC first. So if the UFC is on a Saturday and Bellator's on a Saturday, they're going to watch the UFC more than likely. If Bellator's on a Friday and you know, and it's on the next Friday, and the UFC is on the Saturday, there's at least one or two, or maybe all three of those Bellator cards that are going to be skipped. So I like this new schedule. I know it's probably not realistic long term, and it's probably not a thing that's going to be able to be kept up. But if they could do this regularly, where they leave large gaps between cards, I think it'd really benefit them. And I think people would really like it and would respect Bellator for it subconsciously more than anything else. And yeah, it's good to see Bellator back, and I'm ready for it. So let's get into the card, and let's talk about it and break down some of the fights here. So the main event, as I mentioned earlier, is a welterweight clash between former champion Douglas Lima and probably the number one contender, the best guy up and coming in this division, you know, apart from the two champions, I suppose, to give them their respect at the moment, Jason Jackson. It's been a very interesting time for both guys over the last while. Obviously, Douglas Lima has now lost 3 in a row after going up to middleweight to fight Musayev. He lost to the champion Amasov, and then lost that contentious split decision, a very close fight against MVP back in October of last year. So it's coming up on 9 months since that fight. Obviously, these guys were supposed to fight a couple of months ago. That got cancelled, and now they're fighting again. Jason Jackson, then, on the other hand, has been on a great run. He lost to Ed Root back in 2019, but he's won, 6 fights in a row since that, beating Daly, beating Gracie, beating Benson Henderson, Jordan Mean, and Kunimoto there as well. 5 fights, yeah. And, you know, impression along the way. Okay, all of them have been by unanimous decision. And, you know, his 2 fights before that were also by decision as well. So it takes something, I think, a little bit special and a little bit stand out to to maybe stand out when you are going to so many decisions like that. And I think Jason Jackson has done that. Now, I have a bit of a soft spot for Jason Jackson. I like his style. I like the way he fights. I like the way he goes about his business. He takes fights. He fights regularly. And I'm a big fan of that, really. I really, really like that. And it's a big opportunity for him here because, look, I think he should have been the number one contender. I think he should have been the guy fighting for the title. If you beat Vince Henderson, Neiman Gracie, and Paul Daly 3 fights in a row in Bellator, you should be fighting for that title. Now, MVP deserves it, and he went and he fought. And look, the fact that Amasov wasn't able to take the fight because of the situation in Ukraine, then we have an interim champion, and now the interim champion is obviously going to fight in a rematch, Logan Storley against Amasov. That fight is going to have to happen, and now, you know, Jason Jackson needs another fight, so this is a good fight. Big problem as well for Jason Jackson. Himself and Logan Storley are teammates at Sanford MMA, so I wonder what's going to happen there. If Logan Storley wins that belt outright, are they going to fight? I don't know. Maybe not. But we'll see about that. I actually might have someone I'll be able to ask there in a couple of weeks about that. But anyway, we will come to that. We will talk about that when we meet it. But the fight itself, it's a very interesting fight. Come back and look. We don't need to watch too much of Lima, I suppose. Any of us, we know what Douglas Lima is about. He is a slow-paced hitter, I suppose you would say it. Whether that is off the back foot, trying to land a big shot, or whether he goes forward and lands that lovely jab that he can land. You know, he's long and rangy, and I'll say it again, hits really, really, really hard. The problem for Douglas Lima over the last while, I think, is just he's not letting his hands go enough. And I think a lot of that, we saw with Adesanya, and a lot of that is down to the opponents. You know, when you're fighting someone like Douglas Lima with that touch of power, you're probably not going to want to walk into his power if we're being realistic. But as I said with Adesanya, and I think a lot of people say it as well, it is your responsibility at a certain stage, especially when you're losing like Lima has in these last 3 fights. Now, they're all not because of this, you know, obviously Yamasov one, he got taken down. But it's your responsibility to adjust the way you're fighting, to up that pace, up that output to get you over the line. You know, and I don't think he's been able to do that in his recent fights. Even, you know, he lost the one to MVP, but before that he lost, he won against Rory McDonald, and it was another kind of close, nothing happening fight, but he did win that. And there's been a few of his fights down through the years like that as well. Even the MVP fight before he got the big knockout in the second round, it was like that. And that's his last knockout, you know, back in 2019. So he's gone on, 4 fights in a row without getting a big knockout. And for a guy who is kind of banking on the knockout, it's not a great sign, if we're being honest. If we are being honest, because if you're banking a knockout, you don't get it, and you're fighting a guy like Jason Jackson who's won 5 unanimous decisions in a row. You know, you don't. It doesn't need to be take a genius to know where that's kind of going. So I find it very interesting to see how Lima will actually adjust in this fight and how he will fight. Now, I think Jackson is actually, he's a very tough matchup for Lima, but also I can see a way where he doesn't actually give Lima opportunities. And this is a fight like MVP at times won't give you an opportunity, or Musayev, you know, if he fights the right way, won't give you an opportunity, or Rory, whoever it might be. And they will fight your fight, an anti-Lima fight. I don't think Jackson will. I think Jackson can come out and fight Jackson's fight, and he's really good at it. He throws a lovely 1-2, so fast, so crisp, such a lovely jab down through the middle, and he throws that big high kick as well. And I think that's the way he'll fight. You know, I really do. I think he will fight Lima the way Jackson fights. And Lima, his responsibility in that sort of fight is going to be to counter that jab. Is going to be to get out of the way of the 1-2 and then come back in with, you know, number 3 and land to the body, or come down under and get a takedown or something like that. I really think that's what Lima needs to do, because if he lets Jackson get into a rhythm of landing shot after shot after shot, landing 1-2 after 1-2 after 1-2, he will lose this fight. he without a shadow of a doubt, he will lose this fight. And that has been his problem over the last while. Now, let's see if the change in opponent, who's a more, game is the wrong word, but you get what I mean. His whole game is about being game, is Jason Jackson. And if you watch certain parts of certain fights against Vincent Henderson, maybe you wouldn't think that, but trust me, it is. And he's very well rounded. I was talking to Ian Gary the other day on the phone. He was talking about Jason Jackson. He goes, this guy is, he ordinarily models himself on him in terms of what he wants to be and how good of a fighter he wants to be and how well-rounded of a fighter he wants to be. And speaking of the well-rounded part as well, I really think Jason Jackson needs to throw in a few takedowns here, because we saw Lima in the Amosov fight. He was taken down over and over and over. Now, you can say, all right, Sean, he's fighting Amosov there in that fight, one of the best wrestlers in the world, and you'd be right. But what Amosov did in that fight, he didn't do it. It wasn't rocket science. And it wasn't like he got him with the same thing over and over and Lima couldn't stop it. He took him down with a double leg at one stage. He took him down against the cage. He took him down with a big single leg where he pushed him against the cage and ran the pipe and took him down. Or maybe he didn't run the pipe, but he caught him with a single leg anyway. And there was one time where he was throwing a shot, came in under and take him down. Jason Jackson, I think, needs to do one or all of those things. He needs to mix it up, get a few takedowns, put him on his back, and that's how you win rounds. When you fight Lima, by definition, it's going to be a fight of close rounds. Now, maybe you'll knock him out, maybe he'll knock you out, but in between that, if none of that happens, it's going to be a fight where there's not much output from him, and he's going to stay very defensive, and he's going to try to land that big knockout blow. So it's going to be close, and then there's going to be either the end of the fight via knockout submission or the end of the fight via the final bell in the 5th round going. So your responsibility in that fight, right, is to win those portions of the round. I know I'm breaking down MMA in a very simplistic way here maybe, but I think Jason Jackson, if he gets 2 takedowns in that fight, and I'm not just saying takedowns are going to win the fight, but if he gets a couple of takedowns in that fight in the middle of 2 very close rounds and he gets 90 seconds on top in the half guard, lands 2 or 3 elbows, makes it tough for Lima in maybe a close round, that will take him the round and win it. And it should, the effective striking, grappling on the ground will win you the round, no problem. I think that's something he really needs to add in, because if this turns into a 5-round close boxing match, you never know which way it's going to go. Maybe Lima will do like a Cheeto Vera against Rob Font, be losing for 4 minutes of the round, and Jackson landing more the output, and he lands a big shot late and he wobbles you and he ends up winning the round. And that could happen a couple of times throughout the fight as well. And that's what Lima, if you're looking at it from Lima's point of view, then that's what he needs to do. He needs to land these big power shots. He needs to rock Jason Jackson, hurt Jason Jackson, and probably finish Jason Jackson to win this fight. So it's a fight of many different integers. It's a fight I'm really looking forward to, because look, over the last while, I'm getting really sick of these non-action fighters, if I'm being honest, and that's just from me personally sitting here watching it usually at 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning. And I've spoken to Lima before, and I like him and I like his style, but certain matchups he just turns into this non-action fighter, and I hope it's not a thing where he has changed totally, and he is that. I have no problem with a guy who is waiting in a big knockout like Yoel Romero and others like that. I love that sort of fighter, in fact. I really, really do. And I really liked the way Lima used to fight. But if this is a fundamental change in how he fights, and if he keeps fighting like that, it's... first of all, I don't think it'll work out well for him here, and I don't think it's a fan-friendly kind of thing either. Now, Lima's been around for a long time. He's 42 fights. He's getting on in terms of MMA age, even if he's still only 34 years in human age. But yeah, I think it's... I think he will need to let the hands go a little bit more. He will need to counter the attacks of Jason Jackson. He need to stop those takedowns. He need to land those big shots. But Jackson will need to do the opposite. My pick in this one is Jason Jackson. I think he's going to win it. I don't think Lima is going to be able to land or let his hands go as much as he needs to. I don't think he's going to be able to hurt Jason Jackson multiple times. Now, if he did it once or twice during the fight, yes, absolutely. He could win a couple of rounds via that. But I don't know if he's going to be able to do it 3 times in the fight. Now, maybe he'll only need to do it once, and it'll be a big knockout. But I think Jackson will add in a couple of takedowns. I think he will win the general goings of the fight, which is a phrase I've kind of coined over the last while. I don't know why I keep using it, but anyway. And I think Jason Jackson will win the fight. So that's my pick for this one. I'm going to try to, in these previews, I'll add in a few more picks and let me know who you're picking, especially in the top kind of couple of fights. Let me know who you're picking. Douglas Lima, Jason Jackson, comment below who's going to win. Just comment Lima or Jackson. Let me know. Then the co-main event, a very interesting fight. Very, very interesting fight. Now, anyone who's listened to my Bellator previews over the last while has probably heard the name Tofiq Musayev, because he was supposed to fight Zach Zane, then he was supposed to fight Adam Piccolotti. Both of those bouts ended up getting cancelled. Zane went through the first time, and obviously, you know, the Piccolotti fight was supposed to be here, so now he's fighting Sidney Outlaw, and I think I mentioned that before in the podcast about the Piccolotti fight being a very fun one. He is a really, really good fighter. Now, he hasn't fought since the middle of last year when he was over in Risen, and he ended up getting triangle choke there. But his record before that was unbelievable. He beat Patricky Pitbull, beat Johnny Case, beat Damian Brown, beat Darren Cruikshank, and loads more as well. He is, 18-4, I think, in his career about now. And this guy is legit as they come. I've watched a lot of his fights, preparing for the last fight that didn't happen, and got a reminder of him again today, especially that Patricky fight that happened in in New Year's Day or New Year's Eve even in 2019 / almost 2020 before the world went mad. And he is such an exciting fighter. A really exciting fighter. This guy switches stances, throws high kicks, throws big shots. He's a very good wrestler as well. Don't get me wrong. He will take the ground to fight to the ground if needs be, and he's strong there. But he hits hard. He has lots of knockouts. He knocked out Johnny Chase and Damian Brown and a few more as well. First round knockouts a lot of the time as well for him. I'm a big fan of Tofiq Musayev, and I think he's going to cause problems here in this division. Now, Sidney Outlaw is a very good fighter as well. It's funny, like the fights that are up on YouTube of Sidney Outlaw are, I don't know why I went to YouTube first, but I did. But it's Nick Brown, and I'm just looking here, it was only a couple of fights into his career, so maybe you can write that off, and Michael Chandler as well. And those are 2 fights where he got knocked out in. So not very good if you look up Sidney Outlaw on YouTube. But there's lots of these fights, obviously, on Bellator, the Bellator website as well. And another fighter who's very good. The one thing I would say about Sidney Outlaw is he's very open. And, you know, maybe it's because I watched him get knocked out twice. There definitely could be a part of that in it. But he is a very open fighter, and he will throw big shots at you, land big shots. And I think a lot of it is to do with, we've seen it down through the years. And it's like if you look at Sidney Outlaw's record, rear naked choke against Miles Jury, rear naked choke against Cesar Balcmeda back in 2019. Armbar win. He's another armbar win. He's another rear naked choke win. Another rear naked choke win. Another rear naked choke win. He has lots of submissions on his record, you know. So what is it? 8 submission wins out of 9 finishes. And I think the point I was making is lads like that who love to get submissions usually go mad on the feet, so that even if they throw a big high kick, the fight lands on the ground, they're happy enough to get it there. I wonder how happy he will be to be on the ground, especially if he's in the bottom position against Tofiq Musayev, because he is an animal on the ground. You know, a lot of his fights have been fought in a ring and stuff, so maybe it's a little bit different. It is a little bit different, and he'll take some adjustment. I don't know how many times he's fought in the cage, you know, fighting a lot in Risen, obviously. It will be a little bit different. We'll see how he'll be able to adjust. But I think Outlaw is if he does that, as my hair goes, man. If he does that, throws all those big match shots, it'll either get him a big knockout maybe, or hurt Tofiq and he'll be able to get in his back and submit him, or else he'll end up throwing a big kick, slipping, ended up in bottom and getting absolutely massacred by Musayev with elbows and different things. Either way, I think this is going to be a mad fight. Both guys are mad strikers and really good on the ground. It's one of those ones I kind of wish it was 5 rounds, to be honest. But we're getting 3 rounds here, and it's going to be it's going to be really, really fun. It's going to be really fun. I'm looking forward to that. I'm going for Musayev to win that one. I think he'll win. I think he might win by ground and pound even, so I'm looking forward to that. Another great fight then. We've Usman Nurmagomedov versus Chris Gonzalez, and it feels like there's been more Nurmagomedovs fighting in the last couple of weeks than we've ever seen before. And Usman is the next iteration coming up here, and he's fighting a good guy in Chris Gonzalez, who, 7-1 now, a very, very good all-around fighter. His one loss was in his sixth fight to Gaethje Yamauchi, who's 30 fights at times. He's beaten Vladimir Tokov and Roger Huerta before that. And he came back and he knocked out Syed Awad with a big left head kick before that. Fights out of southpaw position. Funny, Usman Nurmagomedov, watching him. The last time he fought a southpaw, who I believe was it Piatella? I watched the fight against Piatella and the Hamill fight as well. Maybe it was the Hamill fight. But when he fought a southpaw, he fought southpaw as well. That's the first thing I'd be interested in looking at here. If, first of all, Gonzalez comes out southpaw, which I think he will Nurmagomedov switch and fight southpaw as well? Because you see a lot of times with these, with wrestlers, they like to attack the lead leg to get big single legs and takedowns. And if you're fighting orthodox versus, and sometimes I like to switch stances to get into it. So whether you like to get it from the same stance as your opponent, or whether you like to switch stances and get in there from the opposite stance of your opponent, it takes an adjustment to go there. Like, some people prefer other ways. And maybe that's a big reason why Nurmagomedov likes to match the stance of his opponent. And that's one thing I definitely look out for here, and seeing what way Nurmagomedov will fight. Now, he's not just a wrestler. We said it with Saeed last week in the UFC. Usman Nurmagomedov strikes first, and I was watching one of his fights, and I think it was Mauro or Big John in commentary, and he said he was a little bit surprised to see Nurmagomedov shooting for a takedown, which, in and of itself is a funny sentence to say, but I can see why he says that, because he will strike. He fought that whole fight standing with Mike Hamill. And Hamill did pretty well. Hamill took him down at one stage as well. And I'm sure Chris Gonzalez will be looking for a takedown here. But, Gonzalez, as I said, very good wrestler, can hit hard as well, adding more striking now to his game. This is a real emerging prospect versus emerging prospect fight. And I'm really looking forward to this. I'm glad Bellator are putting on fights like this. And, who do I think will win it? It's an interesting one. I'm honestly not sure. I'd probably go with Nurmagomedov. I think his striking and his length might win him this one, and I think he'll have the advantage in the wrestling. So I think if he takes down Gonzalez, I wouldn't be that shocked. I think if Gonzalez took him down, and now when I said he got taken down by Hamill, he was taken down for a second and he kind of got back up. I would be surprised if Gonzalez was able to take him down and keep him down. So I'm going for Nurmagomedov in that. Then we have a fight here, Lorenz Larkin versus Mukhamed Berkhamov. And I'm just looking at my notes there again for quickly as I get into this one. This is an interesting fight because Berkhamov is 15-1. We saw Lorenz Larkin not too long ago, and I talked to him before that fight on one of the media calls. He was fighting a Bellator 288 back in May against Kyle Stewart, and he knocked him out in the first round. And it felt like he was kind of like, I'm not too bothered about fighting. I want to get loads of fights in. I just want to win them and keep going. And it felt like he's kind of over the whole scene. And now, look at all the fights he's won in a row. Beat Gonzalez, Pascu, Koreshkov, Nakamura, Carvalho, and Stewart now, all in the last... it was 4 years, I suppose. So he had a bit of time out of the cage, obviously, between the Nakamura and Carvalho fight. He was supposed to fight Costello Van Steenis in the middle of that, up at middleweight, but back down now at welterweight. And I think that's good for him. He had the last one at middleweight, and I asked him about that, and he said he was going back down. So it's very interesting for Lorenz Larkin because, he's been there, done that. He's fought the big fights. In Bellator, lost his first 2 fights in Bellator against Lima and Daly, and that set him back. Set him back to win all of those fights, and he's still not back in towards the top. And he's got fighting against Mukhamed Berkhamov now, who has had 1 fight in Bellator against Jaleel Willis. He got knocked down in that fight, but ended up coming back and winning it in the first round via guillotine choke. Fighting over in ACA, fighting some good guys like, Brett Cooper and others as well, Jesse Taylor, and, lots of the good up-and-comers over, not even up-and-comers, but good guys over in ACA and other places. And it's going to be a wrestler versus striker matchup. What I've been kind of pussyfooting around here is Berkhamov striking is just, it's not good, I don't think. Like, watching a couple of these fights, I watched that fight where he got knocked down against Willis, and then I watched a couple of these fights. I watched the Brett Cooper fight. And Brett Cooper, like, no disrespect to Brett Cooper, he's not a great fighter. And Brett Cooper landed a good few strikes in him. Now, it was a fight that Berkhamov kept getting to the ground and dominated, but would he be able to get Larkin to the ground as easily and dominate him? I'm not so sure. So, look, this is a real wrestler versus striker matchup. If Berkhamov can take him down and hold him down, look, he's going to win the decision more than likely, or maybe he'll get the finish. But if it stands on the feet, I think Larkin's another guy maybe he doesn't throw enough at times, but if he has to against a guy like Berkhamov, and when I say have to, he has to. Be careful about the takedown, obviously, but when you get a chance to open up, because you will beat this guy, and I really think he can on the feet. I'm going for Larkin here. I haven't, the betting odds I don't think are out yet at the time when I'm recording this, but I would be surprised if Berkhamov wasn't close or wasn't a favourite maybe, but I think Larkin will win this fight. I really, really do. So yeah, those are your kind of the main 4 fights here on this card. I'll run through some of the undercard as well, and the one fight left in the main card is Davion Franklin against Marcelo Golm in the heavyweight division. I've been impressed with Franklin over the last while. He beat Saeed Soma, who has been on a good run in Bellator. I think Franklin will win that one. I think he'll probably land a big shot and be able to get Golm out of there. In this card as well, there's some really, really, really good prospects fighting. Jalen Bates is 5-0. He's 9-0 as an amateur. He's fighting Mark Coates. I like Bates. I think he's a good fighter. And I would be surprised if he didn't win that one. Roman Fernaldo as well. We probably all know him from that flying knee knockout. But his jab and his left hook with his front hand fighting out of the southpaw position is just really, really good. And I think he is a really good prospect fighting out of ATT as well. He's one of these guys that you see all the good points about him, and you're kind of thinking in 3 or 4 years' time, or maybe 2 or 3 years' time, how good he's going to be. I don't think he's the finished article yet, but he has power and patience and pause as well, I would say. Really good fighter. 2 undefeated guys in and up the card. Ethan Hughes 3-0 and Kevin Hand 2-0 as well. Kai Kamaka out of Hawaii is fighting Ahmed Magomedov. This guy is built like a fire hydrant, an absolute animal of a wrestler, and he's 8-0 and a guy you definitely need to keep an eye on as well. Bobby King against Rabzabov or Rabdanimov as well is a good fight. Vanessa Porto against Artesia as well in the 125-pound division, and in 6-0 Dalton Rasta against 6-0 Romero Cotton. This is another massive prospect versus prospect matchup here. Romero Cotton, you see him in his pictures around the place fighting out of AKA with his his wrestling garb on him. He has had a great record, fought every fight in Bellator. Started off with a split decision, but has been on a great run since that. Lots of finishes. Made a guy tap the strikes in after 100 seconds of his last fight. But this is a step up. Look, it's a step up for both guys, I would say. I remember last time Dalton Rasta fought The Rock, Dwayne Johnson. Remember him? Went to unanimous decision with him. He went 3 unanimous decisions in a row, and the fight before that was stopped by a cut. So, maybe he is a little bit to prove in that one as well. But 2 very, very good fighters, very strong, big, athletic guys, 6 foot tall versus 5'10" for the division. They're pretty good big guys, and another big guy as well, Jalen Bates, is massive for that 135-pound division. So there's some really, really, really great prospects in this. If you watch Bates, if you watch Fernaldo, you watch Ethan Hughes and Kevin Hand opening up this card as well. I think Hughes especially there, and you watch Rasta and Cotton, you will see someone who in the future is probably going to be maybe a champion, and obviously Nurmagomedov and Franklin and others as well. I would probably, I'm not sure who I'm leaning with in the Cotton versus Rastafari. Maybe I'd plead the fifth in that one. Let me know who you think. I'd probably just go for Cotton. I think Porto will win there. I would like Rabzabov to win. I think Bates will definitely win. Fernaldo will win. I think Magomedov will have too much for Kai Kamaka, unfortunately, even though he follows me on Twitter. So sorry, Kai, if you're watching this. And I think Ethan Hughes will win that one as well. But all in all, a pretty good card, and a card I'm very, very excited about. So yeah, tune in and watch it this weekend. And let me know in the comment section below, as I said, what you think. Smash that like button. Isn't that what people say on YouTube? Do that. If you're listening on any platform, click the subscribe button. We're on Spotify. We're everywhere as well. So, and if you want to see my beautiful face, but I cut myself like in the middle of this over my eye. Has anyone noticed that? Look at that. I like tore the head off myself. Anyway, if you're not watching a video, I wouldn't see me tearing the head off myself. So, yeah. Please click the subscribe button. Shout out to all the guys over at Sherdog, John Brannigan, and all the lads over there to do an absolutely fantastic job. Thank you to everyone as well here from listening. Shout out to the people in the comment section. You're legends. And enjoy Bellator this weekend. My name is Sean Sheehan for Sherdog.com, and I'll see you all next time.